Hello and welcome to the GamerGuild podcast, your weekly installment of gaming news with myself, Rob, Chris and Richie, forming the Gamers Guild. This week is mainly going to be talking about Starfield, to be honest, because that's what everyone else is. We've also got some shady price increases from Sony and Embracer closing down a once beloved studio. All that and more on this week's episode of the GamerGuild podcast. We got some big news this week, mainly from Microsoft, and it's all around Starfield. Chris, you've played Starfield out of all of us on early access on our weekly stream. What's your initial thoughts?
Yeah, so Starfield, huge game, just launched. Arguably Microsoft's biggest launch of this generation. There's been so much hype around it. I think we've all kind of been drawn in by the hype. And this week on the channel, I jumped in, streamed it as part of early access. I did pay for it. I think it was like £30 if you had. We get it, of course, with Game Pass later this week, where you can pay £30 to upgrade to the deluxe edition. So with me being off work this past week, I thought I'd rather pay the £30 and just get early access to give myself that time off to play and enjoy it. And impressions, the reviews are out there, going really, really well so far. But my first initial take is I'm enjoying it. I said on the live stream, I'm not a Bethesda guy. I've not really dabbled before in Fallout, Skyrim, Oblivion or anything like that. So I went into this totally fresh. I went into it from a point of view I knew there was going to be some Bethesda jank. And oh boy, there was some Bethesda jank in my playthrough still. But I guess that's kind of endearing if that's what you know to expect. Is it acceptable in 2023? Probably not, but is it one of those things that we kind of just shrug off and move on with anyway? I'm not really one of those people who kind of like bears down, like, oh, something glitches through a wall, or the game's terrible, everything's bad about it all of a sudden. It's like, I understand like the amount of zeros and ones that go into making a video game, and you can't, on such a huge scale which Starfield is, you can't factor in everything. So when a gun glitches or something, it's just like, yeah, okay, get on with it. It's not the end of the world.
Yeah, someone accidentally wrote a 2 in the code
instead
of zeros and ones.
Well, I think I said on the live stream that like there's so many potential outcomes. Like if I happen to go stand in a corner of a room for like 5 seconds instead of 2 seconds, that feeds into the code, and that could trigger something else to happen that a developer just hasn't anticipated or a playtester hasn't done. So I never really get hung up on those type of things, but it did lead to some interesting, funny moments. I played for I've got about 5 to 6 hours under my belt so far. I played a little bit off stream as well, and the world's starting to open up. I'm exploring some different little story paths. But yeah, I'm having fun so far. As it's kind of what we expected. There's space exploration. I've been in my ship. I've done some aerial dogfight combat in space. I've met a few interesting characters. I'm kind of getting established in the world, so I kind of have a good idea of the trajectory of the story now. And I'm having fun. I'm looking forward to jumping in and playing some more.
Cool. And I think for any new listeners to the show, we live stream generally every Thursday, every Friday, and I think Starfield's probably going to be a somewhat regular feature to that. So if you want more of that, obviously just let us know and we'll kind of put that into the schedule. So the reviews that are coming out are very firmly in the, if you take away kind of the extreme kind of this isn't a 10 out of 10, so it's a 1 out of 10 type of reviews. The general consensus seems to be a very solid 7 to 8 out of 10.
It's a good
That's
good
not
game.
What I've seen.
Good game.
Looking at
that.
Yeah, looking at Metacritic at the moment for both the PC and Series X versions, it's getting a solid 86, 87. So it's on the higher ends of the 8. It's mainly pushing 9s and 10s, to be honest. Yeah. There's a few outlets who went a bit lower, but the lower ones, apart from those who clearly just going for clickbait, have went high 7s.
See, I say a solid 7 to 8 simply because like that Metacritic score is going to be skewed by early access reviews to an extent, right? Which we know kind of always on the higher side.
Yeah, but I'm looking at the critic review, not the user score. The user scores isn't even up yet.
Okay.
There's a lot of discourse gone around this game, and I thought what's been quite interesting is playing it on early access day one is the amount of people who are like so defensive over a game they haven't even played themselves yet. Like, IGN gave it a 7, and IGN being one of the biggest outlets, like, if arguably not the biggest gaming outlet on the planet, them giving it a 7 has got a lot of people worked up. Again, 7 on the IGN scale is good. Like, it's a good game.
Yeah.
But for some reason, people have got it in their heads that this is a 10 out of 10 Xbox game. They want it, understandably so, to be a 10 out of 10. I'd like it to be a 10 out of 10. But then one individual reviewer whose job is to play the game, now they're going to town them in comment sections, like the internet is in favour about it. And GameSpot, again, another big outlet, gave it a 7 out of 10. It's got so many people worked up, and it's like, just enjoy the game, guys.
I feel like
you don't need to get caught up on it.
Yeah, I feel like people are seeing this less as a game and more of like a weapon in the PlayStation 5 v Xbox kind of debate, which I thought we were past that in 2023.
No, the internet will never be past that. But back to Richie's point, yeah, Metacritic, it's reviewing really good. It's a good game. It's a solid game from Bethesda. And looking at some like the overall reviews, it's no surprise, I think, what the score's getting. Like, from what I've played, as I joked about, like, in my first 5 to 6 hours, pardon me, there is that element of, there is that jank, as I said. Some of the NPCs are kind of like dead behind the eye, so like graphically wise, it's not up there being the most hot. Like, again, I've played things like Horizon Burning Shores in the last year. That looks more gorgeous than this. That has way better interactions with face-to-face NPCs. That's also a massive open world, so you can't even necessarily say, oh, well, this is a Bethesda open world. Like, I'm not sure on like the 1-for-1 scale, but they do them better. And this, remember, this is made specifically for Xbox, so this doesn't have the multiple platforms problem that you would normally say, like, oh, well, it's made for multiple things, that's why it suffers a little bit. It's also been in development for, 25 years, Bethesda said? I know that's just about the new IP thing. But I can understand why it would maybe be starting to lose marks on people's performance. A big thing, a big worry and takeaway for me is a lot of early reviews have said the game really opens up after New Game Plus, which is like 40 to 45 hours after. And a lot of people,
design, right?
A lot of people on social media, a lot of the review people are saying, like, you need to make a beeline for the main campaign because something happens, like, spoiler free in New Game Plus, that really, like, the game starts to like step into its own. And early doors, after doing a few missions and side quests, I'm thinking, like, I'm a bit lost for really where to do. The game doesn't initially do a great job, I don't think, of funneling you towards what is the main path. And again, I'm only a few hours in, so I'm not saying like that's a problem. I'm looking forward to exploring, but when that's one of the big problems with the game is you have to play essentially 3 days worth of the game straight to get to the good stuff, to quote.
I find that really weird because Bethesda games don't feel like they need a new game plus because they're always just quite open. Your main campaign is there. It is recommended you do play through it, but you can play and put 100 hours in something like Skyrim without ever really interacting with the main campaign.
Yeah, well, they say, like, again, those branching paths are there. You can be whatever. Like, in the create a character, there's about 20 different traits. You can be a space pirate, you can be a cyber runner, you can be a pacifist, you can do all these different things. But what they're saying is to get the best out of the game, you get the most XP from the main campaign. So I don't know whether it's... Again, I haven't played it, so I don't know if it's XP related, whatever the plot twist is that suddenly makes the universe, like Matrix Neon style, you can see and understand everything. But at this moment in time, like, a lot of the reviews are saying, yeah, it gets really, really good after that amount of time. And as we all know, as people who maybe don't have as much time in our life, that's a bit daunting for me.
Yeah, especially for a game that's supposed to be like a mass market kind of, flagship game. Like, to have it so inaccessible for a lot of, I guess you call it casual gamers, which we're not, but sometimes our schedule makes us so. It seems like a big barrier to overcome. So I very consciously didn't opt into like the early access scheme for this game, simply because there was a couple of misgivings with like how old the engine is that it's running on, and Bethesda games are generally borderline unplayable in the first kind of couple of weeks anyway. So I chose not to go into this like early access scheme. But there is a bigger question around how this game released when it comes to early access, and it was brought up in our Discord chat very specifically. So there was a lot of uptake for the early access, which I think came in around, was it $35?
Yeah, I think I paid £30 for it, so 35, something along those lines.
So essentially, £30 for like an early access, like a week early access, where it would normally be free on Game Pass. Now, it seems like they had a lot of pickup on the Xbox side of that, and also a lot of pickup on the Steam early access, which I think hit 200,000 plus concurrent players at one point, which for like $100-ish, like title on Steam is pretty good going. Now, do we think this is going to be kind of like a standard mode of operating for Microsoft moving forward? Considering how big this title is and how seemingly well it's done in early access fees. Richie, what do you think?
I think it can be, but it needs to be the right game. I think Starfield is the right game because the amount of hype around it, the amount of right marketing, how eager the gaming fan base was to get their hands on this. So that £30 go, yeah, no, £30 I'm already paying for Game Pass, but that's already just a recurring fee that comes out of my bank. Yeah, I'll go for it. I think with Starfield as well, is that the excitement around that game where people are willing to pay. The problem is, if they start doing it for every game, it does start to devalue Game Pass a little bit. Not a huge amount, but I kind of think Microsoft probably need to do something like this. Because we always talk about how great of a value Game Pass is, but that's a bit of a double-edged sword. It's great for the consumer, but it's not necessarily great for Microsoft because then they're only getting that steady income. But if they're not getting them sales, if not like, well, how much is Starfield retail? About £70?
I think so, yeah, full normal.
Well, I'm getting on Game Pass, you're getting on Game Pass, you're getting on Game Pass. That's what, 210 quid that they could have got out of us that they're just not going to get. We already have Game Pass, so that's not extra money coming in for them. So I think overall revenue is probably down if everyone's just waiting for things to come to Game Pass. This might be a nice intermediate, like you're getting your Game Pass subscription, which keeps that steady trickle of income, but then you also still get a bit of the tempo like spikes in your revenue.
Yeah, I think for Microsoft, I think it's a very shrewd business move, because if you look at gamers in general, there's one thing that we are definitely not, and that is patient. And the fact that you can dangle this carrot a week early, and the hype around it, as Richie rightly said, is if it's just sat there in front of you saying, well, you can get it in a week, but for £30, you can have it. For $30, you can have it. And again, I think they'll have to wiggle the price.
It's the buzz online as well. I'm actively trying to avoid spoilers for Starfield to the point where I refuse to stream with Chris on Friday.
But then I'm sure for every one of you, there's 1,000,001 people who are like, well, I don't want spoilers, so I'll just pay it and play it this week instead. And then for every one of those scenarios, it's more money. I think for Microsoft, as back to what Richie's point was around Game Pass and the monetary side, Microsoft, after those Steam numbers, which a lot of those will have probably came from people who've seen it was out in early access and they've gone and bought it on Steam instead. All the people like me who paid that £30, that's a huge cash injection for Microsoft so early before the game's even launched. And then they'll probably see another boon from it next week when people go, oh, I've got it for free on Game Pass. But if I want the deluxe edition, all you get is like an extra side mission, a couple of like cosmetic skins, and well, no longer early access. But in a week's time, they'll get another cash boost. And I think it goes back to, if Game Pass has got the monthly subscription coming in and making the money, then if they're hoping to hit a first-party game every quarter, which is their goal, Starfield's apparently kicked off now. We've got Forza next month, or the month after, I believe. If that does an early access thing, and then that's just kind of cash in their pocket that wouldn't have otherwise existed just by teasing them. We've seen EA do it with pretty much every sports title that comes out. You get early access to FIFA. And I feel like, as much as we hate like microtransactions, this is the new business model that I think it allows them to double dip. And at the end of the day, if you don't want it, don't pay it. So the option for the consumer, it's there, and it's on you as a consumer to pay it if you want. I did, you two didn't.
I think I think the timeline is right as well. That just 1 week. It doesn't feel like, if you choose not to, it doesn't feel like, oh God, I have to wait 6 months for this game or something.
It's not like
it doesn't feel like a problematic time for him. So basically, what you're kind of paying are £30, so you want to get your hands on it early, but also be part of that initial wave of conversation.
Yeah, and
where I'm having to avoid that conversation.
I find it extremely difficult to like not get involved in the game when I see basically every content creator playing it as well. Like, kind of like,
you want to jump in.
Yeah, like the stuff I've been seeing on kind of TikTok and YouTube has been focused around like the ship creator, and you've got kind of people like replicating famous
That's
ships.
the Zelda effect. It all comes to the customizability in games. Oh, you can build this thing. Let's have loads of TikToks.
Like you have people recreating like the Milano from Guardians of the Galaxy, the Enterprise from Star Trek and stuff like that, and that alone is like it's only 30 quid.
It's social
That's
media is such a big
it's
push.
it's so much less of a psychological weight than 70.
Yeah.
I think it's good for Microsoft's analytics as well, because they've seen that spike based on the early access from Starfield, and they know that is directly related to that one game. Where if you see an increase in Game Pass, it's probably Starfield, but there's a bit of question mark. How much are you actually going to see a spike in Game Pass over this month, or is it people already got Game Pass over the course of the year, with Starfield as one of the things that you're looking forward to? So it can be probably hard sometimes for Microsoft, outside of like the Redfall situation where there's massive critical reaction to it with a lot of games. How much is this game actually adding value to Game Pass, apart from just like looking at the numbers of people playing? How much is it, because they want to keep getting more and more people in it, how much is it moving the needle? But if you see that an instant revenue spike because of early access, you can kind of judge a bit better.
Yeah, it's all about the zeitgeist, and I think what you were saying there, Rob, about like the creation of the ships and stuff, is that's where I think reviewers and maybe the general audience are butting heads a little bit with the scoring structure, because these reviewers have obviously had to play the game in a very short space of time, and they've had to cram in, like some of them have played 70 upwards of 100 hours, which means basically for the last week they've done nothing but play this game. And I don't think
fatigued.
Yeah, and I don't think that's the best way to enjoy this type of game. Like rushing through it to the finish line, and then having to sit down and write like a 20 paragraph review of it and put a solid score. It's not the best way to do it. Where I think people, like you said on TikTok, who were doing like ship creation stuff, like they're there to basically spend hours just doing this small part of the game that has no bearing on the story. They are there to enjoy that world, and I think this is where people are thinking, as far as an open world exploration game in space, 10 out of 10. But then these critical reviews have to come in and look at it from like every point of like graphic fidelity, performance. So that's why the score gets knocked down. No disrespect to the world they've created. That could be literally hundreds and hundreds of hours of fun. But from a critical lens, it's a 7 or an 8. And like that's, again, that is a good game. To bring it back around to some of the quotes from PC Gamer, they're one of the bigger reviews as well. Give it a 7 out of 10. Starfield is a true behemoth of an RPG, and in many ways, it's the logical endpoint of Bethesda Game Studios' well-worn formula. However, its massive scope pushes the formula to its absolute limit, and the cracks begin to show. From feature creep, whatever that is, to the start-stop nature of its exploration, dedicated Bethesda fans are sure to get their fill, but this interstellar adventure never leaves the atmosphere. So there's that dichotomy of, I think people said, if you love Oblivion and stuff and Skyrim, like this is 100% for you. You've got to probably love it and think it's the best game ever. If, like, maybe me, perhaps, who's never played it, but I've been drawn in by the sci-fi nature, I might just look at it and go, yeah, I had fun with it, but it wasn't blowing me away, because I probably ain't going to have 100 plus hours to sink into this before Spider-Man comes out. So that's just the nature of it.
I think another review which kind of not wound me up, but it described it as like a mile wide and an inch deep. Like I feel like saying like something like that is so unfair based on, you know, a 20-30 hour playtime to do a review. Like I don't know how deep you can get into a game in that amount of time, especially a game like Starfield. Like that feels a bit unfair.
That feels weird for a concept for me for a Bethesda game, because Bethesda games are quite wide. But when you like are not playing through things like Skyrim, if you stop to start reading like some of the books and stuff, which not everyone's going to do, the lore in that world is so deep and rich, and just like by reading the books in the world, you're going to get a lot more out of it. So like saying it's very shallow is kind of feels not Bethesda in a lot of ways, from my experience playing Bethesda games.
Yeah.
But I always think Bethesda games are slow burns. They're not. I don't think they're intended to be like blitz through it over the course of a week or two. Like, how many people are still playing? Rob, are you still playing Skyrim right now?
Yeah, I played some a couple of days ago.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah,
so, like this is it. This is what I think Starfield is. It's going to be people in 5-10 years time still playing this game. Like people playing regularly for a long period of time.
Yeah, and
exploring more and more. So yeah, it is a very wide game, but I don't know. I think I haven't played the game. I've been avoiding most reviews and content around it, so maybe I am wrong, but it doesn't feel like Bethesda, like a statement that would apply to most Bethesda games I've experienced.
I think I'd agree. I mean, it's definitely going to be a game I'll be sinking many, many hours into, probably for the remainder of this year and many years to come. Let's move on, because we could talk about Starfield for the entire hour, and we'll kind of ignore a lot of the other interesting and slightly controversial things that are happening in the gaming zeitgeist. So, moving on to the blue side of things. PlayStation Portal, which was previously the name for Sony's kind of handheld Project Q device, now has a price and a launch date. So it's coming fairly soon, 15th of November, and it's going to retail for, I believe, £200.
Yeah, it's like 199.
199, yeah.
But give or
Get that
take.
pricing psychology, so you don't have to put the 2 at the start. Pretty well for Christmas, right? That must be the intention here.
Yeah, Christmas, Black Friday, right? Black Friday's what, the last Friday in November, so you're talking like 2 weeks prior to that. So get some hype building for it, and it's always, I mean, it's not quite a stocking filler at £200, but
I know, right?
it's a tech.
But again,
enthusiast,
a game's £70. It's it's in the context of how expensive gaming is becoming. I don't think it's terrible.
Yeah, me and Richie was speaking about it last week, and it's just the combination of a DualSense at £70 and an Android 8-inch tablet at £100. You're talking for an extra £30 that bumps it up to the price point this is at, and yeah, it kind of ticks. It's not over. If it was $250, I think that would have been way too much. I think everyone was hoping for $149, and I think that's like just maybe selling it a little bit too cheap for what is essentially a premium PlayStation product. Mm-hmm. And now we've got a date. My hands up. As I said, Richie, talk with our money from last week. I've pre-ordered it. It's going to be my Christmas present to myself. And I will be playing it when it gets. I'm not waiting until Santa delivers it.
Again, just reiterating last week, I think the hardware is worth the money. I just don't think the software is. I think the fact that it is only a remote play device it doesn't have Bluetooth, so you can't use a third-party Bluetooth earbuds or something. So if you want to play on the move,
you have to use.
You have to either use wired ones, or you have to go for Sony's first proprietary solutions.
Or the third choice, just use the built-in speakers.
You can't do that on the move. It's rude.
Well, if I'm in my home, just chilling on the couch instead of sitting on the TV.
Yeah, but that's why I'm saying on the move. Like, if you're commuting, if you're playing on your commute, if you're on the train for a couple of hours, this is the sort of where I see these sort of devices come into their own. Rather less so than when you're at home, but for me, it's the fact that it is remote play only that is the nail in the coffin for me. That makes me not interested, even though I do like remote play. It just, for a device like this, I need a bit more than just remote play.
So I think that's where I stand.
Know the date. I was going to say we know the date and the price. What's your take on it, Rob? Because you were missing from last week's show.
Yeah, I mean, for its use case, I think it's pretty good, and I think the price is, fair, considering how the price of a controller, and as you say, the price of a tablet screen. It's not something I'll be buying just because I don't have the use case for it. But I can see it kind of eking out a market to some degree. But it's something I just don't have. Honestly, I'm not really touching my PlayStation much at the moment, so I'm not.
I think this is one of the devices, if you look at it and go, this fills what the need I have, then I think the price is 100% worth it. Go do it.
Yeah. I think it does come down the price, doesn't it?
By not having cloud gaming in there, and proprietary stuff aside, which I just think is anti-consumer, I think they're making that niche even smaller, unnecessarily.
So if launch came out, Richie, and they said, at launch, we've actually did a firmware update, and you can, this new PS5 cloud gaming trial that's going on now with PS Plus Premium members, if that was bundled in day one as part of a firmware update, would that lean you more towards thinking, actually, you know what? Yes?
It would still be a no, because I just can't afford it right now. But it would not be a hard no, which it is right now. It would be, okay, this is now becoming a more enticing prospect for me.
Yeah.
But I don't game on the move a lot, and I don't really need a device like this around the house. So but it would be easier to recommend. I'd find it easier to recommend if it had full PlayStation Cloud gaming in there.
Yeah. How many poor children do you think are going to get to Christmas this year and their granny or someone's went, oh, I've got you that new PlayStation thing, and then they open it like, oh my god, this is amazing. Look at the pile of presents and think, there isn't a PS5 size box there, and then they're going to open the rest of them and go, Gran, or whoever, you do realise I need the console as well. And they're going to go,
and how many
You do
how many
good
arguments are going to be had when they realise, oh, you have to connect to your PlayStation, which means your PlayStation can't do anything else. So parents buy this device thinking this is an alternative way so the kids can play the PlayStation while they're watching Netflix via it or something.
Mm-hmm. So here's
and then you get that conflict.
This is a very interesting topic, actually, because I hark back to the time when I tried to rent Ape Escape from Blockbuster Video. Mm-hmm. And it was the first game on the PlayStation 1 where you had to have analog sticks to actually play it. And I really wanted, because I remember you had it, I wanted to go to Blockbuster to rent it. And I went in, really happy to get it, and was told that, oh no, like, the guy at Blockbuster said, oh, do you have this type of controller? No, I don't. Oh, you can't have this game. How many people are going to be buying, this device online, thinking they can play it without any of the additional hardware, kind of parents and maybe grandparents and stuff like that, buying it's this amazing PlayStation portable device for little Timmy with no kind of advising, no one to advise him or no one to kind of tell him that this thing's not going to work, because who buys games and stuff from game shops anymore?
Yeah.
Right?
The return
and do the people
policy...
in the game shop... Are the people in the game shop even fully aware of the strengths and limitations of something like remote play? Because it's a bit more of a niche feature in the PlayStation ecosystem.
Yeah, so I can see a lot of people mistaking this for a PlayStation portable console. But we'll see.
Yeah.
Sorry, Timmy. Grandma messed up this year.
Yeah. I mean, you can still flog it for 200 quid, so I'm sure he's not too harsh to buy. In terms of the pricing-wise, it's crazy to think at this moment in time a DualSense Edge controller is £10 more than this whole device will be, just an Edge controller. And on the flip side, because the consoles are still on that summer sale, you can pick up a PS5 console for 404. So for the cost of two of these, you can get an actual PS5.
It's not bad, right?
It's
I'd
weird.
rather a PlayStation... Yeah, I'd rather play for a PlayStation Portal right now than a DualSense Edge.
Oh,
yeah,
that's what we know.
I think the improvements of the Edge are not worth the money, to be honest. I don't see how the improvements... It is a better controller than the DualSense, but the DualSense is such a solid controller anyway. I think it's massive amounts of diminishing returns in your money, unless you are actually a pro gamer.
Yeah. Now, speaking of being worth the money... PlayStation Plus has been in the spotlight this past week for something that I'm not particularly happy with how they've dropped this. So, kind of more or less out the blue, they've announced some pretty steep price increases across every single tier of PlayStation Plus. So, read them out really quickly. If you're on the Essential package, for the annual cost, that's going to go from £49 up to £59. PlayStation Plus is going from £83.99 to $99, and if you're on Premium, you're essentially going from £100 to £120 for the year. Mm-hmm. Big price increases at a time when PlayStation Plus isn't really dropping any bangers recently, I don't feel, and these price increases were kind of announced seemingly more or less out the blue, and they apply
now,
basically immediately, right?
That's the worst thing. The timeline of if this is going to be from April next year, you've got a bit of time to digest it. But the fact that we're recording on the 3rd of September. This goes live on the 6th.
Yeah, right.
That's a bit of kick in the teeth. The blog was dated from Wednesday last week, so you got literally a week. Less
than a week. Bear in mind when Microsoft kind of announced their kind of pricing increases, we had a pretty solid run up to when they actually deployed those. The key question for you guys, and I want to ask you, is do you think PlayStation Plus is still worth the money? Chris, what about yourself?
Yes. I do. And I think without going down the rabbit hole of criticising for the price, I think we do need to understand the entire world, everything's in it. Game Pass went up, 2 months ago now? They made the same announcements where all theirs jumped up by a couple of pound. We've all sat around, had a couple of beers this past weekend, bitching and moaning about mortgages, gas, electric, fuel, food, everything. So it's no surprise that a global business like Sony's had to look at. Again, we all know they didn't need to do this; they could have absorbed the cost. But it's an easy couple extra $1 million for them to rake in by just cranking it up that little bit. But even at the premium tier, $120 for the year, it works out at £10 a month, and I think £10 a month for what you get is pretty good value. If we look back, it's unfortunate that they decided to do it with this month's offering for PlayStation Plus, because I would say this has been a very weak month for PlayStation Plus. But if we look back through, say, over the last couple of months, last month we got Alan Wake Remastered, fairly new game, only came out just over a year ago. Call of Duty Black Ops. Previous month we got NBA, Jurassic World. We've had Chivalry 2, Rob, back in May.
Your favourite game?
March, yeah. Battlefield 2042 in March. That wasn't that old of a game. You got that. Star Wars Jedi Fallen Order back in January. So, and that's just the PS5 games. That's not including all the other kind of little interstitial ones in between. Grid Legends, Jurassic World Evolution. I think for your £10 a month for the top premium one. Plus, remember, you get that entire catalogue, which we've gone back to every other month when they announce their mid-month games that get added. Mm-hmm. You're talking hundreds and hundreds of titles. So I think if you're like a little Timmy, his grandma's realised she's bought him the wrong thing for Christmas and went back and got him a PS5 from the shop. When he sits down for £10 a month, the offering he gets, I think, is way better value than you get for your Netflix or your Amazon Prime or any other monthly subscription you will get. And then there probably is an argument to be made based on the quality. Is it better than Game Pass? So we won't go down that rabbit hole today, but I think for £10 a month, although the price increase is a bitch, and I'm maybe not that phased by it because I locked in during the summer sale, so I've got another year already paid for me.
That's something I actually want to get onto with the timeline of this. With only having a week, by the time that's trickled down to most people, I think it's a pretty dodgy practice, to be honest. What they're trying to do with this, I think the reason why they haven't announced it till just before is so that people can't just go and re-up for a year. Now, just go buy a pass for a year, because by the time you've heard this, chances are it might be already too late, or you don't have the cash in the bank to just drop the money on the air. So now you're locked into the higher price. So I think they're just trying to avoid people circumventing that, which I'm not overly fond of. My problem with this is I can't justify anyone going to PS Plus Premium right now. I don't see the value extra in Premium compared to PS Plus Extra. It doesn't. It feels like you get a few older titles and that's it.
You mean free trials don't do it for you? Demos, essentially.
And you mentioned Game Pass. The big advantage of Game Pass is it's Microsoft's first party's day and date, which you're not getting over here. So I think, I don't know. I think for me, I think £100 for PlayStation Plus Extra is fine. I wish they give a bit more time for people. Yeah. Instead of just going next week, it's now going up by 17 quid. Mm-hmm. Not great business practice, that, to be honest.
Yeah.
But
it's the comparison to Game Pass is an interesting one as well, because there's loads of stuff I completely agree with you, but then this is where Sony gets that bravado about them, where they know they're number one. They don't offer their games day and date AAA for the very much reason they know we're all going to go out and buy Spider-Man for £70 and not bat an eyelid at it because we want to play Spider-Man. If you look at that offering for Game Pass, which you mentioned, Richie, Starfield's not out yet, so we'll take Starfield out of the equation. Looking at this year on Game Pass, did you play Minecraft Legends beyond our stream?
No.
Will you be playing Forza Motorsport beyond the stream?
Yeah.
What about Redfall? You played that this year?
Yes, I did. It was terrible.
Right. So where's the value in those 3 day-and-date AAA first-party titles?
Yeah, but I get where you're coming from.
So it's an interesting subjective thing to look at as well. It's like, is the £10 valuable over here or there? And that's for consumers, obviously, and Timmy's grandma to make their mind up. But
I think the overall price, £100 a year for PlayStation Plus Extra, is absolutely fine. For me, it's more the way they've handled this news.
Have you seen the turkey trick, by the way? The turkey trick. It's a thing. So there's a bloke in Turkey who basically spent £300-400 on the 12-month subscription PlayStation Plus things. So he now has 5 years worth of PlayStation Plus stacked up by buying £300 worth of vouchers like last year. If this price increase is like an annual or biannual thing that happens, this guy's like made bank on just committing a deposit amount of like PlayStation Plus subscriptions. I saw it circling around, so yeah, the turkey trick. But as back to what Richie said,
if you have money, you can afford to do stuff like that.
But as Richie said, the time frame, you don't really have time to go out and do this, or the money, of course.
Yeah.
And most people, let's be fair, are probably not paying a year. They're probably paying a month.
I think I'm always fortunate because I get my bonus from work the month the summer sales kick off. So I feel like every year I see that promotion that, like, I think I only paid £79 for another year. So for like just short of £80, I've got another year of PlayStation Plus Premium, and that for me was like valuable. But it's if and when and in the moment.
I'm a bit with Rob on this one. I need to actually really... At the moment, I've got PS Plus Premium. I'm definitely, when that expires, dropping down to at least extra. I might even go as far as essential because I'm just not playing anything on PlayStation Plus.
This is what I'm thinking.
All the things I'm playing on PlayStation, and I'm playing a lot, I purchased. So the value just hasn't, over this last year, hasn't really been there for me.
Yeah,
Microsoft is literally the reverse, where everything I'm playing on Microsoft is a Game Pass title.
Yeah, I think I'm going to like drop down to essential because like the back catalogue and premium, it's just, that's definitely not worth the money now for me.
It is if you're playing them.
Yeah, but there's nothing to pull me in, and bear in mind I'm quite like a classic gamer anyway. I feel like if it was anybody like to get pulled in by those titles, it would be me. And I'm looking at like the difference now, and I'm, for some reason in my head, like £120 is leagues more money than £100, even though it's like, you know, like the actual relative difference is still the same across tiers. It just seems like a hell of a lot of money now. So I think I will be going down to at least extra when it's time for me to renew, unfortunately.
It's an interesting trick with PlayStation Plus because we've all got like kind of year-long subscriptions, but we could just pay monthly, and we could just opt out like Netflix. We could just pay
save
monthly
money,
and cancel.
actually.
But
you do save money usually by committing to a year. It's usually something about £10-15 a year or something. But
with the price increases,
if you are
counterbalance that.
Well, no, because they put up the monthly price as well.
Oh, right, yeah, I guess.
The same principle is still going to apply. The reason it is because you've committed to a year, so they get that income guaranteed. Where if you're paying monthly, they're relying on that rolling subscription, and at any point someone could just turn it off if they're not using it. Because if I was paying monthly for PlayStation Plus, I probably would have cancelled my subscription at some point over the air and just re-upped it as and when I needed it, because I just haven't been using it. I'm going in, I'm claiming all the games every single month. They're not playing them.
Are you going to be playing Saints Row in September, Richie?
No.
That's the title we got. Well, we got 3 titles in for September. So Saints Row is kind of the, I guess, headline one, if you want to call it.
It's the biggest picture on the artwork, so that's seemingly what they deem it. Yeah. I can't get away from this game. I had it on Stadia. Google took it away from me, and I thought I was done with it, and then here it is. I've been given it back as part of PlayStation Premium.
Yeah. Do you want it?
So it's an interesting subject with this week with Saints Row, because the next story of the week very much ties in with this game. So in similar to what we've just been talking about. So we got a price increase, and then seemingly the offering for the month of the price increase is weak sauce. It's not great this month. Saints Row, there's a first look up on the channel. I did it back in the day. It was a game out of time. If it launched in 2013-14, it would have been like great open world exploration, go have fun. And the new Saints Row reboot, it is that. It's a game stuck in 2014. Graphically, didn't look great. Gameplay was old. Mission to mission, go here, do a mission, go here, do a mission. Chase people down the car. It was basically like a poor man's GTA. And ironically, GTA 5 came out probably the year this game should have launched in that timeline.
I think that was a damning thing.
Yeah.
If you bring out a game that's similar to GTA 5 10 years after GTA 5,
it's not as
it
good.
has to at least be as good.
Yeah.
At least as good.
Yeah, weak characters and just nothing. Again, like, it's a passable, acceptable game, but it was very much a double A take, unfortunately. Even with like the new engines and graphics, it couldn't do anything to revive Saints Row, and I think, unfortunately, the franchise is probably going to be put to bed for quite some time. The other 2 games we'll get into, I guess, but do you want to fold in the news about the studio, Rob? Because it seems odd talking about the game so deeply and then not mentioning the other news.
It's quite a bit of sad news, this. So Volition, which kind of we all know kind of got bought out by Embracer. I can't remember the exact timeline when it happened, but I guess as is inevitable for a couple of these types of deals and mergers, Volition's been closed down with immediate effect. Kind of the bigger context is that the Embracer Group, like everywhere else in the planet, is kind of not struggling financially, but they're having a lot closer look at how they operate and how they kind of work as a business.
I don't know how they're not struggling financially, to be honest, because they went through a period of buying everyone under the sun, got a million studios, started releasing a few titles, and none of them have really moved the needle that much, to be honest.
Yeah.
There's been the odd thing that's like made a few waves, but things like Saints Row was one of the big hitters coming from them, and it just did nothing.
Yeah, it's a shame. So, like, Volition on their social media, they put out a statement saying, essentially, like, this past June, Embracer Group announced a restructuring program to strengthen and maintain its position as a leader in the video game industry. As part of that program, they evaluated strategic and operational goals and made a difficult decision to close Volition effective immediately. Not even there's a project like that's going to close up and then, people are kind of going to get, like, reassigned and stuff like that. It was immediate effect. It's looking to affect around 340 people based on kind of the last figures that came out, and kind of Embracer put out the standard statement. It's like, we're working to provide job assistance and smooth transition to Volition family members. I don't know how much faith I put in how hard they're trying on that front, but it's very sad. Like, Volition,
It's
at one point they were big group, weren't they?
I think you and me, Rob, our history with Volition probably just arcs back to Red Faction. Like, I never really cared that much for Saints Row, the reboot, or the original ones. But Red Faction has like a really good soft spot in my heart. Got my PS2, it was Red Faction, the Star Wars Starfighter, and the destruction in the world, the railguns, just being on Mars. It basically was Total Recall, the game.
Yeah,
and
like being able to blow a hole in a wall and then walk through that hole to circumvent a locked door.
Amazing. In the PS2 era, that was like
so good. And we got Red Faction 2, then we got Red Faction Guerrilla, and then subsequently Armageddon. The franchise kind of fizzled out a little bit. I do wonder what, like, obviously Saints Row, now it's out. I do kind of have the behind the scenes feeling that having it on PlayStation Plus was like a last minute deal from Embracer to get a bit of cash in before they stop supporting this game at all. I think it had its last update just a few weeks back, and now here we are.
That might be why they've made the decision.
It's just dead.
Are we going to continue with the studio, or we're going to close it down? If the Saints support on Saints Row has ended, so now it's like, do we give them another project or do we restructure?
Yeah.
And it seems like they're consolidating the business, and unfortunately, Volition is just one of them organisations who probably weren't working on a new title, so it's easy to cut them loose. At this point,
it's not necessarily the people at the studio can't make like a good game, because like, quite frankly, I think Saints Row would have been like a perfect Game Pass title. Like, we keep joking about the Game Pass mantra, but it would fit in with that. And I think a lot of these people will move on to other studios, whether that's internal or external, because obviously they can make it a game. But it's odd to think like the studios that are doing like SpongeBob and stuff get to hang around. But I would say Saints Row and Red Faction are far better than that. But they still own the IP, so my guess is we'll see a Red Faction reboot with another studio in the next few years.
I think it's how the games are positioned in the market.
Yeah.
A SpongeBob game isn't going up like with the best of the AAA titles out there in the world. It's aimed at a younger audience. It is what it is. You're not expecting what you're expecting from SpongeBob is what you get. Where Saints Row, it feels like an attempt to make a modern AAA game that just didn't come off or didn't come close. And I think that's where I think the Embracer Group as a whole are struggling to take that step up.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, because they've got Crystal Dynamics now, that is a studio that can help them, because we know how good they can be with things like the Tomb Raider franchise. So, but I don't know, I think Embracer they've just struggled to take that step up, and I think we're in a world now where there's so many amazing games out there, especially things like Game Pass. You got Starfield coming, so if you're creating a 6 out of 10, 7 out of 10, AA to somewhere in that between that AA and AAA thing, you're just going to get completely overlooked.
Yeah. They should have.
How many games have we looked at recently in like things like Gamescom where when it looks fine, but why would I play it over this, which I've got sat there waiting for me?
Absolutely.
I think that's the problem. The good games, they're just not good enough to draw people's attention.
I think in hindsight, looking back at the game listing, after Saints Row, they did Saints Row 4, and they did the kind of Get Out of Hell remaster, essentially, for next gen. They did Agents of Mayhem, which tanked, like that failed epically, and I think that maybe put them off like exploring new IP, which I feel like after 4 Saints Row games, a new IP would have been a smart choice for them. But then after the failure of Agents of Mayhem back in 2017, I think they got cold feet and they went back to what they felt was safe, which was Saints Row, did a reboot, and I think in hindsight, that 5 years of development, 5-6 years, should have been on a new IP, something fresh, something exciting, something for the devs to stretch themselves a little bit and push the limits maybe in a new genre or something. And eventually we're just at this point where they've ran the well dry on funding, and as Richie said, with a new title seemingly probably only in pre-production, it's easy for Embracer to go, right, we can cut our losses, what might have been like 100 to 150 million of sunken cost, on a studio that's not had 2 great games back to back, and then they
It might be a budget thing.
Yeah, it probably is. It's an easier
there
thing.
might be a lot of stuff that they want to do with Saints Row in terms of, you mentioned the graphics, maybe they wanted to make the graphics better, but didn't have the time and resources to implement that properly. So they've had to dial things back to get the game running smooth. Stuff like that, the gameplay was fairly standard. They might have had interesting ideas to differentiate it, but then didn't have the time to develop them. It could be a lot of stuff like that can go into it. And unfortunately, that's often a budgetary thing rather than a talent thing.
Yeah, it's a big shame. But if anybody from Volition is listening to this podcast, hope you all wish you all the best. Thank you for the amazing games in the past, and we look forward to see whatever you guys individually work on or as a collective in the future. Bye, guys.
Agreed.
Yeah. Looping just very, very quickly back around to like the starting point of this discussion with PlayStation Plus games for September. So Saints Row's in there. We also get Black Desert and Generation Zero, which are kind of, I'm going to be honest, and this may sound very harsh, very unremarkable titles, which I honestly completely passed me by at release and haven't held any cult love or kind of any note, really, to be honest. Do you two have any knowledge of these 2 games?
The only knowledge I've got, and Richie's probably the same, is Black Desert. We had the new Black Desert RPG shown off at the Gamescom Open Night Live, and I think we were like totally blown away by everything that game did. And then everyone said, "Oh, it actually comes from Black Desert Online, which is their previous MMO RPG game." And I've never heard of it or played it. It's one of those games that I think it exists and it's got probably hundreds of thousands of players, but it's just not in my kind of wheelhouse. But there's a big audience. I feel like this one, I don't know what your thoughts are, Rich. I think this one might have snuck in there because of the warm reception from Gamescom for the in all but essence a sequel.
Maybe, but we have to remember, one, I think it's slightly damning for Black Desert that the effective sequel, they decided to abandon the MMO elements of the game. And it's just quickly glancing at Metacritic, 61 Metascore, 3.8 users score. I don't know how. No, I don't know how much of this is like review botting or anything without digging into it. But there's a few 9s and 8s and 10s, so I think it might just be like a bit of a Marmite game. Either you fall in love with it, you love MMOs, and this is a nice world you enjoy spending time in, or you're just like, nah, not for me.
Looking at the gameplay, it just looks like Baldur's Gate to me. Like what I'm seeing, like again, just very 1-for-1 on one of the trailers. There's like loads of inventory, loads of enemies, you're jumping around, casting spells and shit. Game looks fine, but again, it's just not my type of game. But yeah, overall, I think the other title, never heard of it before in my life. Was it Generation Zero?
It's been reviewed quite terribly, from what I can see. So I don't want to kind of dwell on the negativity too much, but suffice to say that in a month when PlayStation Plus is becoming universally more expensive, this probably isn't the month you want to have for game quality, right?
This is not a good advert for PlayStation Plus. Look, Black Desert, Metacritic, 0 positive reviews. This is the critic side. 9 mixed, 12 negative.
Yeah.
It's the 0 positive just jumps out. Not even one outlet put this above a 7 out of 10.
And then right at the bottom of the blog, oh, by the way, our prices are going up. Just like get that in. All I can imagine is maybe they've got one hell of a month lined up for next month. Like if they come out in October and go like, here's a cracking list of titles and Spider-Man's out this month. So like the hype is, again, it's all a roller coaster, isn't it? The marketing cycle within just 3 weeks will have completely changed because of it's like Xbox for Starfield. Like the hype around Starfield is very much there. Microsoft I don't think can do wrong at this moment in time because everyone's just so high on this new massive launch. And we all get swept up in it.
Interestingly though, we do usually get a mid-month update for some more titles, and they tend to be better. I found over the last few months, they tend to be more interesting titles. And although technically August, Sea of Stars was the 29th of August, so basically a September game.
Ooh, I wonder if the Borderlands collection makes its way into there.
That would be very interesting.
That wasn't a setup for a segue, but now I've said it out loud, I realise it very much is.
No, it's not because I have my segue already planned. So, not great reviews for the games that are coming to PlayStation Plus in September. Let's see if October does any better. But one thing that is completely killing every single review kind of benchmark for a great title is Sea of Stars. So, Sea of Stars comes from Sabotage Studio, kind of their take of like a Metroidvania style game, which actually came about as, I think it was a Kickstarter, like kind of coming out the back end of COVID. It's dropped to basically universal praise. So it's retailing at $35, so obviously there's a consideration for, value against that price to take into fact, but briefly skimming across reviews, Digital Trends 4 out of 5, Primer Games 10 out of 10, Dexerto 10 out of 10, Gaming Informer 9 out of 10, PC Games End 9 out of 10, more 10 out of 10s on this list. So this is a game I'm not familiar with because the genre is just something I don't play, but god damn, like a $35 title with universal acclaim.
Free on Game Pass or PlayStation Plus?
Yeah, that's what I was going to say. So, like, the Messenger, I played the Messenger on Nintendo Switch, and it's absolutely gorgeous. Fantastic 2D Metroidvania game, like you mentioned, Rob. And then for them to do that and then pivot to Sea of Stars as a turn-based RPG, a lot of people are saying this is like Super Mario RPG or Chrono Trigger, which I know are some of the most highly reviewed and revered titles in history.
I've played it. I'm still playing it, actually. Very Chrono Trigger vibes.
Yeah.
Not in terms of the narrative, but one of the main composer actually did compose for Chrono Trigger as well, and it's very obvious.
Yeah.
But that's not a bad thing.
In a year stacked with amazing titles, as Richie said, we got this free on PlayStation Plus, free on Game Pass, day one launch. So it's interesting that it went into both subscription models, because the game seemingly could have probably held its own, but then in such a busy year and a busy month, like I passed this one over to Richie to stream on the channel, so there's a full... Do you do about 2 hours, right? Just short 2 hours?
Yeah, about 2 hours,
And you said you're still playing it, so what are your first initial thoughts, Richie? What does it hold up to you in terms of what JRPGs you traditionally play?
Well, I think I've heard people mention it's similar to Golden Sun as well, but I've never played Golden Sun. So the closest I can get is this is more... It is Chrono Trigger is just immediately from the way the characters move, the soundtrack. It just feels like... It does feel like very Chrono Trigger. And again, that Chrono Trigger is one of the highest reviewed JRPGs of all time, so it's not a bad thing to be compared to. I found the combat quite interesting. There's a few definite tweaks in there for, like, typically you're playing a JRPG, you'd use mana for your spells, but then you'd have to find ethers in the world or rest to restore it. By using standard attacks, you can actually restore your mana as you go through the fight. So it's put a bit of an interesting dynamic there where you're having to balance the use of your spells versus standard attacks. And the narrative seems quite interesting so far.
I was curious. I've
just enjoyed it.
What's the gist of the story then? So obviously it's set in the same world as the Messenger, which I think is so cool. That they do a 2D game and then switch to this, but it's all kind of contained in their created universe. What's the gist of how it starts?
I've never played The Messenger, so it starts out basically you got these two characters. One of them was born on the summer solstice, one was born on the winter solstice, and they're meant to be solstice warriors. Basically, it's your classic, these are the destined heroes sort of thing. It's not hiding behind anything like that. And then basically they're living in this town that's pretty much set up for them to train them up, so then they can go out in the world to fight the great evil. And none of this is like ridiculous, like groundbreaking stuff from what I've played, but I'm finding it just interesting. I don't know how, I'm not that far in the story, so it hasn't had much chance to to develop the characters. And it's your classic, okay, as you're going through the world, you build up a ragtag group of companions who are going to go join your party, all with like different motivations, and that they seem to like coalesce towards the goal of ultimately beating the Fleshmancer.
Oh.
Yeah, the main enemy is called the Fleshmancer.
That's some Strange Things.
Yeah, that was there.
Yeah, but see you things.
But not.
Yeah, like it's something I wasn't going to play, to be honest, but seeing reviews drop of that caliber, and I don't have to pay for it. Like,
yeah, it's one of them. If you like your classic JRPGs, and especially if you've got fondness for things like Golden Sun and Chrono Trigger, I think it's worth giving it a go.
Or pixel art.
Gorgeous. It looks gorgeous. I've seen some reviews. I'm just reading one from Metacritic. This game would have been fun in the 90s. It's not the kind of game I expect in 2023. Give it a 0. But it's like, well, games can be different things. Like, if it's not for you, then fine. But
some people,
just because it's very much a game developed in a style that was popular in the 90s, doesn't make it a bad game in 2023, in my opinion. It's personal preference, a lot of this stuff. But yeah, I think it's a fantastic game. I think what will make or break it is the strength of the story. I have seen a few reviews saying that the combat isn't as deep as they wish, but I think that is fine as long as the story is engaging enough to keep you going.
What do you have for games, eh?
Yeah.
God, yeah, add this to the list of titles which like I really would like to play, but realistically will have no time until summer of 2024 at this point.
This could be Indie Game of the Year, I think, at Game Awards. I think it's definitely in the running.
And this is where, to go back to what we said at the beginning of the show, the Starfield review thing, like, don't get hung up on reviews, because technically this is reviewing better than Starfield, but side by side, they are not the same thing in all manner. There couldn't be opposite ends of the spectrum if they tried. And yet, people look and go, oh, this isn't it, and that's
is the word star.
Yeah, it's just like, don't get caught up on a number, guys. Just go enjoy
the main thing is, are you having fun? Like, and I think there's a lot to be fun in this game from what I've experienced, if you're into this style of game. If you're not into this style of game, it's probably not for you, but that's fine also.
Yeah. I mean, for anybody who feels like they don't have enough games to play and kind of want to get a couple more titles in there in a nice bundle price, Borderlands kind of bundle, what I call it, like the Pandora box bundle, dropped recently. So it's 6 games. It's kind of, let me read out the titles. So you get Borderlands 1, 2, the pre-sequel, 3, Tales of Borderland, new Tales from Borderland, and then every single bit of DLC. They dropped on the 1st of September on kind of all platforms excluding Switch, I believe.
Yeah, coming on the 6th of October to Switch, so
yeah, Switch is coming on the 6th. Price is a bit heavy at $150. Now,
that's a bit.
This is expensive for a bunch of games which have already been released and are also getting dropped around some very, very big titles.
I will point out though, it is currently on sale on Xbox for 3 days. So if you choose Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, you can probably get it for about £50.
Yes, so there is a $60 kind of promo deal that's came out, and additionally. Yeah. If you own any of the titles that make up part of this collection previously, you can upgrade to the full bundle for $30. So for fans of like Borderlands who maybe have like dipped into 1 or 2 titles and kind of want, I guess, just to deepen up your game library, an additional $30 doesn't seem too bad. But I feel like this release is going to go like pass a lot of people by just based on how busy like this next 3 months is, right? Like, the question I want to ask is, does at this time of year, is there any space for this type of bundle of games?
Nah, I mean, I'll throw it over to Richie because he's our Borderlands guy, but I think this is a bundle that's going to be a slow burn. I think get it out now. No one will really pay much heed to it, but as the price naturally comes down over the next couple of months, maybe like at the turn of the year when it's down to like £80 or £90, undoubtedly for all these games, the value is amazing. Like, new Tales of the Borderlands came out this year, and they did no marketing, and everyone forgot about it, and it rolled on by like a tumbleweed. But that alone was probably a £25 to £30 title earlier on this year, and just no one played it. So that alone is making up a big chunk of it. But then throw in all the other ones, I think the value's there. It's just, as you said, in a busy year, not for anyone right now. But Richie, you're our Borderlands person. You probably own the majority of these games, if not all but one or two. What does this Pandora collection do for you?
I think it might be a little steep. 150, it feels a little steep, but with the amount of content in there, because you are getting everything, apart from basically everything apart from Tiny Tina's Wonderlands, and I believe it's all DLC as well.
Yeah,
for the the 4 main titles, plus Tales of Borderlands. The original one is really, really good. I've not played New Tales.
The fact that that's in there anyway suggests quite a crazy move, because that's Telltale. That's not Gearbox. Yeah. So the fact that it's even included is like, that's if we would, when we all talk about Batman, Rob, it's like that should be Origins that's included in, right? But this has actually been acknowledged and it's bundled in with it all. It's literally every Borderlands thing.
Yeah, I'm not quite sure though who this is for, because you're committing quite a big outlay. You're getting a lot of content, but is it for people who've never played Borderlands? But surely if you've never played Borderlands, you're just going to buy one game to test out the waters. But then I suppose you have the upgrade thing. So
I think it's for the upgraders. I think that's what they're trying to do.
Borderlands 2, which is the one I would recommend people play first, is £20 on Steam. So I'd still recommend you go buy Borderlands 2 first, and then consider upgrading if you fall in love with the franchise.
On Steam you can't. No upgrade path on Steam.
Oh, okay. But, well, I was just looking at the Steam store, but your equivalent price would be out of what places.
I think this is for the upgrades. I think there's that many games in that bundle. Chances are you own one of them. And I think I own 2. I think I own 3 on Stadia, but I think aside from that, I own the Telltale game. So
I don't own Borderlands 3 anymore. I've only just realised that because I had that on Stadia.
So for me, I can get all them extra games for £30, which is a great value proposition. So I think you're right, Rob. I don't think it's for the newcomers. I think it's for someone who maybe has one of the 5 games already, and I think a £30 upgrade offer is enough to maybe entice something. Well, actually, for £30, I could get 3, 4, 5 other titles that I maybe don't own. So, like, for me, I would like to play at some point the new Tales from the Borderlands game. Now I get that, plus every other title, and back to Richie said, Borderlands 3 once again, which I do know, and did have. I get that included. So I think, it's an upgrading proposition. I think full price, too much. Upgrade price, very reasonable, depending on how many titles you already own.
I think we also need to remember is it's a bundle. It doesn't necessarily need to move the needle a lot now. It's just there as an option.
Absolutely. But busy, yeah.
And it's better than Handsome Jack Collection because it has Borderlands 1.
Yeah, right. So, yeah. Anybody who's actually looking forward to this bundle, let us know in the comments in Discord. What do you think of it? Let's jump over to the Nintendo side of things, just as we're kind of approaching the sunset of the show, if you like. We got a few more details about Super Mario Brothers Wonder coming out in a couple of months, actually. I'm not going to go into the full list of things because, quite frankly, it's the details that were given. At the same time, they weren't surprising. There is a lot of them that came out. What I'd rather focus on is that this is going to be the first kind of, I guess, traditional Mario we know in the sense of kind of 2D platformer vibes. It's going to be the first one that has come out in, I want to say, about 10 years, if my timeline's
we had the new Super Mario Bros. And then we got the deluxe like Wii U port across, which kind of filled that gap. And we got Super Mario Maker,
Odyssey.
No, in terms of 2D,
for 2D,
we got Maker, which obviously was just go do your own thing and Maker 2. So they've not actually, Nintendo haven't really sat down and made their own story and levels for, like you said,
New Super Mario's Wii U. That was the last 2D main series Mario game.
Like a lifetime ago, as it comes in terms of gaming. The buzz around this is kind of really, really, really starting to bubble now, and like I've seen kind of people talking about it in kind of forums and Discord groups, and I feel like people are saying kind of this could be the one to kind of peak, like Super Mario Bros. 3 and Super Mario Bros. Worlds, which widely regarded as some of the best titles in the franchise. On a scale of 1 to 10, how excited are you guys to get back into the world of Mario? Richie, go first. You seem to be
about 3, to be honest.
Really?
But I've been more of a 3D Mario than 2D Mario fan personally. I think it looks great, but with everything else that's coming out at the moment, that I'm just more interested in. So it's not, my 3 is not a reflection of the game, but of my personal tastes.
So do you feel like you've kind of moved on from, I guess, the traditional Mario format into different?
I've never been a huge 2D Mario fan ever. I was more of a Sonic fan.
See, I can remember dumping countless hours.
Mario 64 was the first Mario game I fell in love with.
See,
so I've always been a 3D Mario fan because I never had a SNES.
Yeah, see, so I got my kind of DNA on.
I remember playing at your house. Yeah, I remember being crap at it, and I still am.
I remember a crazy thing. Like I got the SNES bundle came with
the All Stars bundle was amazing.
Yeah, but also it came with like a VHS, like featurette with Craig Charles presenting it, telling me how to do the cheat to get like a bunch more lives on the
Craig
first
Charles
level.
Presenting a Mario thing in the 90s is probably about as 90s as you can get.
It was just very bizarre, but he gave me there's like a hidden box somewhere on one of the levels, and he told me where to find that, and that was how you found cheats back in the day, apparently. Like I'm well out of the Nintendo ecosystem, but this is the one thing that might tempt me back into it. Chris, how do you feel with your Switch kind of looming in the background there?
It literally is over there, yeah. For me, with Mario, I've had so much fun playing like the 2D ones back on the Game Boy, like Golden Coins and stuff like that. So much fun. But as I've evolved as a gamer onto PlayStation, Xbox, and beyond that, and I know Nintendo going to market this at like a full £60 title, and it won't be discounted at all for the next 5 years. I just don't think for me, my personal, like what I look to get out of a game, I no doubt if I plugged this in and played it, I'd enjoy it for a couple of hours. But then the story, there'll be no story, there'll be no voice acting outside of a wahoo here or a let's go here. I'm going left to right, and as much as they're like, it looks like Richie said, it looks gorgeous, it looks fun, it looks whimsical. You can now be a Mario elephant, you've got Bubble Mario, and you can turn into a drill. All that sounds cool. I remember getting that sunflower for the first time and going, holy shit, he shoots fireballs. This is epic. He can fly in the Tanuki outfit. Like, yes, completely. But for £60 of my money, for a gorgeous looking side scroller, if it wasn't Mario, this would be a £25 to £30 title, I feel. And in the busy year that we've got, as my Nintendo Switch sits there, I probably won't be playing this game. Unless, like, maybe in a few years, I'm guessing when my daughter's older, this would definitely be, like, a lighter, colourful title I would maybe want to play and introduce her to. But as of this moment, she's not even 6 months old yet, so I think this will be one for the history banks for now. But it will sell millions because it's Mario on Switch.
Yeah, you can almost guarantee a new Mario game is going to be incredibly polished, it's going to be fun to play, and if you're into the style of gameplay, you're going to fall in love with it. I don't think £60 is actually a bad price for a game of when Nintendo are not going to release a bad Mario title. I think they would absolutely just refuse to put it out. I think they will hold on and develop because it's their main franchise. Mario always outsells Zelda. You think of Zelda as a massive hit, you think of Metroid as a massive hit, but they come nowhere near to the sales numbers of Mario. Or at least traditionally they haven't. Zelda might have done more in recent years with Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom, but yeah, so if you're into Mario, especially into 2D stuff, I think you're going to have a great time. It's just, I've never been a big fan of the 2D Mario games. It's just never been to my taste. You need to go faster. Give me Sonic games.
Well, I guess it's going to be me that's going to be advocating for 2D Mario on this channel moving forward.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I've
appreciated them from afar, but it's just...
Appreciate them from afar, okay. Yeah. Fair enough. So, I want to close off the show with a little dip into the world of Luna. As long-term listeners or viewers of the channel know, like this channel started in cloud gaming exclusively before branching out. Luna's set to lose another 38 games in the coming future, and like in the very near future. That takes the current load of titles from where it currently sits at, I think, about 110 down into the 70s. Bear in mind, they've already lost about 150 games over, I think, a 12 to 18 month period. Like, I'm not going to go into like all of the games that are going, because it's a lot, and they're all kind of, I guess, not remarkable in their own.
Saints Row is better than most of them. To put a
E-Save for me is the standout one there, but
so
it's a niche game. Overcooked.
Like Luna, when it launched, we like kind of initially had some very like good positivity and some excitement around, because I guess we had something to talk about for Luna. Like, we did one Luna podcast episode, and then ultimately realised
we did two.
We did two.
Yeah, 2 months in a row, and then they just stopped doing anything.
There's no news.
And it seems like this is just set to shrink into nothingness. It seemed I don't know what the play is for Amazon. Like, why did they bother bringing it to different territories when it's just shrinking as a product? Like,
I think
is there any way back for Luna?
This is the worrying consensus. So naturally, like, I'm in a lot of like Luna groups across social media, like Discords, and I follow a lot of the channels. Like Cloud Dosage doing some fantastic work as well. All this, like the news stories, the listing of the games, all come from when you log into Luna and you go to the title. It tells you at the top, this game will be leaving Amazon Luna on this day, and they do a fantastic job of kind of collating this list. But for your library at one point, it got to, I believe it was up to nearly 250, 300 games, to then now be dipping below the 100 mark with seemingly no return for these titles. It makes you just think, like, why would you pay for Luna Plus as a subscription? Like, what? Like, earlier on when we were speaking about PlayStation Plus, Luna Plus is £10 a month, and you are getting sweet FA for this.
Like, it must be people who've just forgotten the
subscription.
Right?
It's an embarrassingly low number of an embarrassingly poor bag of poor quality games now that sit on Luna. There is not one good game that has launched day and date this year on this platform, and we're in September, guys. It's not acceptable as a platform trying to improve and create a user base. It's not happening.
There's absolutely no way at the moment I can justify advising someone to consider Luna over Game Pass.
Yeah, like, you'd be insane.
You can play Game Pass. You can play Game Pass everywhere. You can play Luna. The game library is much better, and the price isn't that much different.
I don't know what else we can say.
They're losing games at a faster rate than they're gaining them. That's a problem for any platform.
Especially the quality of games as well is like, again, there's just nothing. There's nothing there to advocate for Luna, and I think I'd like
to, but I can't see it.
Yeah, well, we know
this is why we didn't.
This is the problem we had, right? Like, with the tech works, the game works, the controller's lovely. I get the concept, but it goes back to the games. And I think I said it a couple of weeks ago, but even Google Stadia at its worst, it had Saints Row. It had Dead Island 2 was coming out. It probably would have had this year's FIFA. It would have had the Cyberpunk DLC coming out this month. Luna's had nothing. Like, absolutely nothing. I don't even think the most vehement defender of this platform can sit there and honestly say, I'm playing games this month on this platform, because everyone else has gone elsewhere to play the likes of Starfield and God of War and Super Mario Wonder, because there is nothing coming. And back to another news story this week to do with Amazon. New World is getting its first expansion. The own in-house first-party game made by Amazon Games, New World, is getting an expansion, and it's not on their own platform. There's worrying signs all around. Their social media team just tweeted out about Fortnite. Fortnite this, Fortnite that, new skins of Fortnite. Great, but you can play Fortnite everywhere.
Yeah,
so
Fortnite is a game where it's not actually massively power hungry. You can basically play that game on the potato. So one of the advantages of cloud gaming means that you can play. Part of the selling point for Stadia back in the day was you can play the latest and greatest AAA games without needing expensive hardware. But if you're only having like at best mid-tier AA's and indies, well, you can play them basically on anywhere on your phone, just natively, a lot of them, and so the cloud gaming element then is no longer an advantage. Because cloud gaming, it does have things. It does have a little bit more latency than playing locally. It's basically usually not noticeable for anyone, but you do need a solid internet connection. You do need that stable connection. So sometimes it can be. It's not living up to what the key selling points of cloud gaming should be, in my opinion. That's the problem.
Yeah.
It's like,
and the only saving grace is that, like, an announcement of this caliber from any of the bigger players would be gaming nuclear kind of Holocaust moment type of thing. Like, the only good thing is that like the audience has moved on from Luna, and nobody
they never had
really cares what they do anymore, which is damning in its own right. So
we saw what happened with Stadia, and that was reported to death. Well, everyone's looking at Luna and went, it's just not even worth.
Yeah, that's the thing.
no one
like,
even takes the piss out of Luna. That's how quiet and lowly it is. Like, at least Stadia people took shots and digs at it every other week.
Yeah, like people cared enough to mock it, like as opposed to.
It almost feels like it's been like inevitable. Like, I don't know how they dig themselves out of this hole. I think they can, but it's what we always said with Stadia. It doesn't matter how good your tech is. It comes down to games.
Absolutely.
If you're not putting the games on the platform that people want to play, they're going to look at it and go, well, the games I want to play aren't there, so it doesn't matter how good your tech is. I'm going to go play somewhere else.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like, it's that simple.
Yeah. It goes.
You could just get GeForce Now, buy the game on Steam. A lot of it. So
it just to summarise, it just goes back to the best audience Luna had was the Stadia audience who migrated over and hoped it was going to be like carry the flag for cloud gaming and such, and they've just done nothing over the last year. Like, it launched in the US like out of early access beta last March, I believe it was. So it's been out over a year, like 2022, and just it's doing less and less. It's talking about it less and less. And I always go back to their social presence, and I've said it before, but as it stands, Amazon Luna, Twitter, or formerly known as Twitter, 31k. That's it. That's all it's got on Twitter, and like that is not good. And again, all they've got no news to post about. The blog post as weak as anything. It gets a little Prime thing, and I think without a massive cash injection or some ports from New World and stuff, and big titles for the end of the year. Mm-hmm. Like, remember, Resident Evil 3 hasn't even came back, has it? 2 came back, I think, but didn't get 4 this year. And it just, it's getting to a point where it's just going to go quietly into the night, and I wouldn't be surprised. I hate to say it, but I'm going to have a controller sat on my shelf that's going to have no usage out of it.
Yeah, like Luna, either like get it together or just stop, I think, is the key message there.
I think Stadia has probably burned the air for cloud gaming quite a lot. I think there's a lot of cloud gamers I think feel a bit burned by like backing what effectively an underdog, regardless how much money the corporation has.
Yeah, I think
with Stadia, so people are probably more cautious going into Luna.
I'd agree entirely.
They're showing the same patterns that led to the end of Stadia. In
that?
fact, the patterns are worse because games are leaving. Games didn't leave Stadia.
So there's a nice little like throw in from social media. During Gamescom the other week, tweeted out, challenge to anyone at Gamescom, connect and play Amazon Luna on as many different screens as possible. Tag us in your results. How many responses do you think that had?
Like
6.
2 from staff members.
4.
Oh,
First one, yeah, your game selection got worse. I'm going to go play on GeForce Now. Second one, I can't. Third one, how do you want them to play if you don't want to invest in AAA games? And then the final one, if Amazon Luna is showcasing new games at Gamescom, then yeah, who on earth thought it would be a good idea to tweet about Gamescom when you have no presence? And it's like, you're right.
The thing is, there's not one single comment there which isn't completely valid criticism. It's not anybody saying your shit go die or something. It's like it's all constructive
Yeah.
This is fun.
If of the
You've
80
just
games
drawn
announced,
attention.
you had maybe 5% of them coming to your platform, perhaps. It's just like
You've actually
it's just worrying.
Drawing attention to the fact that you're not there.
Yeah,
that's painful.
it is.
I feel sorry for that social media person because they've been tasked with like tweeting something about Gamescom, but then they've been given nothing to work with. But they still have to do it.
Hey, they have a fairly easy job, right? Though, if there's no news to talk about, your job's
well, not really.
one tweet a day about Fortnite.
Because they're the ones who get the backlash because they're the front line.
But at least they're not publicly represented. Like the unfortunate thing with a lot of the Stadia folks is they embrace the community and they put their real name out there and their own handles. The Luna one is just hidden between anonymity of like you're just the Luna account.
Yeah,
so like
that is true. Yeah,
enjoy your cups of tea on a weekend and don't worry about it. But I can see unless something drastically changed, I think the only cloud game we'll probably talk about will be Xbox and
GeForce now. Hopefully PlayStation, and you have no Nintendo have dabbled, but
we'll see. We'll see. All right, guys, let's close out the show and let's quickly talk what we've been playing, what we're going to be playing, and what's going to be the start of a very, very stacked couple of months. Chris, go.
I think I know everyone's answer, and it's I'm going to continue to dive into Starfield. I want to put some more hours into it tonight before I go back to work. And I think, as you said at the start, Rob, I think probably a couple of streams here and there, no set times. We might still do our regular stream every week, but if I've got many, many hours to put into it, I'll probably just jump on and do some missions and quests and browse around. But yeah, very much Starfield. I am looking forward to it coming to the cloud later this week when it launches publicly, because I found out during my live stream my PC is being pushed to its limits with Starfield. Okay. Even on low settings, I thought I had a decent PC setup. During the live stream, I couldn't even run Discord at the same time. So my camera, when I was in gameplay, just froze. But when I went to the pause menu, you could see me moving around. Like, it fucked up the first 20 minutes of my stream because I had to reconfigure everything. And it was the load times and stuff. And again, Bethesda bugs aside, yeah, my PC, I think, was struggling at that point. So when it comes to the cloud, I'm going to elevate all that by just click to play. There's a link. Magic. And I might do a little bit on my backbone as well, just do some like kind of smaller missions out and around. See how it plays on different screen sizes, essentially.
Yeah, good.
Because it seems like a game that if I have, like half an hour in bed on a night or something, I can just chip away at a little job here and there. But also it does look great on an ultra-wide monitor, I'm going to say.
Yeah, I'm very much looking forward to that. That's going to be my pick.
Yeah. Starfield for me, can't wait.
Richie, what about yourself?
I'm literally 3 trophies away from the platinum in Final Fantasy VII, but I haven't played in about 2 weeks because one boss just kept kicking my ass. And you know when you feel like you're banging your head against the wall?
On the game?
A bit of both. But like, you know when you're getting frustrated, like, so I've took a short break. I do want to go back because, again, 3 trophies from it, and 2 of them are mini games that I just need to grind out. So it's only one real difficult trophy that I need to get. So I do want to get that platinum. Going to continue playing a bit of Sea of Stars. I've dabbled in Skyrim since we last talked on the podcast, Rob. But then it's going to be Starfield as soon as I get my hands on it on Wednesday.
Yeah, same for me. So I'm going to fill in my, I guess, transitionary gaming time in Skyrim and then dive straight into Starfield. So I'm very much sticking with Bethesda for the foreseeable future, I guess. We'll have lots to talk about on Starfield next week, I guess.
I'd be interested to get your guys, again, you two being more in that Bethesda ecosystem. I'd be very intrigued to see like how your approach to Starfield has been different, how you've compared it and contrasted it against it, whereas mine was very much fresh eyes, go in, have fun, see what happens. I'll be very interested next week to see what your inputs are.
And I think also as well, our Discord community, I think most people in there are going to be playing that game. Anybody who's listening to this who isn't included in that community, links will be in the description of this video. Final plug, because I forgot to do it at the start and I'm a new host, so if you do want a little bit of extra from our community, you can become what we call them now? Guild members?
Heroes.
Guild heroes.
Still heroes.
You can become a guild hero for the GamerGuild for as little as 99p a month. Get lots of great benefits, which I can't remember currently.
Well, it's usually just, now we've stripped back all the shows, it's pretty much just early access to this as quick as we can get it out. Stickers and badges in the live chat, but other than that, I'm don't know if the YouTube merch store actually lets us like offer discount to members, because that would seem like a logical promotion to be like, if you remember, you get 5% off or 10% off. But
I don't think so, because YouTube and the merch store actually have nothing to do with each other. YouTube just allows you to basically freely advertise your merch store on your channel.
That's true. Fair enough. But before we go, Rob, I do want to say, well done on hosting for the first time.
Yeah, well done.
Held down the fort.
Yeah, it's been alright.
You now have another 3 weeks cycle before it gets back around to you to kind of prep and prepare. But before we round out, I do want to say the graciously gathered Gamer Guild Gazette, aka the news. I didn't get to say it.
News. We didn't do the news, did we? Never mind. We'll do that next week. But
we shall.
Yes. Everybody, thank you for sticking with this episode with me as first-time host. I've popped the cherry and look forward to doing it much more in the future. So, thank you guys. And remember, play wherever makes you happiest. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.
Bye.